Hi you guys, my name is Cyan Martin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we are doing my January wrap up. I'm going to show you guys the, I think, 8 books in one DNF that I did read this month. I did film videos with most of these books, but I was just sick and not myself. I'm still kind of recovering from being sick, so those videos will never see the light of day. You're welcome for that. So instead, we're just going to talk about them. I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts and opinions on them, and we're just going to go in the order that I read them. So the first book that I actually read this month was a new release, and I just had to read it. I kind of was a little bit late because I think it came out like the 26th of December, but I read it in January, and that is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. If you haven't read the very first book in the series, Divine Rivals, I really love that story. It's just a beautiful YA fantasy romance. And that first book does end on a cliffhanger. I absolutely loved it though, gave it 5 stars, and this book picks up right where we left off. I did really enjoy this story. I know a lot of people said that they didn't like it as much because it does go a lot more into details about the war that's going on, but I didn't find those parts boring at all. I thought the plot was actually really interesting. However, it just didn't grip me as much as the first one, so I did give it 4 stars, but it's still really good. And I also like that the end kind of just was left off. I felt like I had enough closure and their story was beautiful, and it just left on a really good note because this author definitely could have done a money grab and just continued writing this series probably for a very long time, and people like me would continue to eat it up, but I'm glad that she didn't do that and just made it a duology that was absolutely perfect. Or I'm pretty sure it's a duology. I don't have anything to back that up because I haven't done any research, but I'm pretty sure. Then I picked up the second book in the Magnolia Park series. This one is actually called Daisy Hates, and it is about 2 other characters. Well, technically 3. So in the first book, you meet Magnolia and BJ and their whole entire friend group. You also meet Daisy and Christian, who are the main characters in this book. And then you get a third point of view, which is Julian, which is her brother. And their story is a little bit different because while Magnolia and BJ are both kind of socialites, Daisy in this story is known for her family being involved in the mafia, so it just takes a completely different turn from the other story. I didn't necessarily love the first one because it is toxic, and I knew that going in, but the trope that was in that one, I just did not like at all. However, this couple, they kind of follow a different trope, and I like them a little bit more because I feel like the trope is something I can stand behind. Like, I can understand them getting together despite the battles that they faced, but in Magnolia Parks, I just really did not love those characters. So that's why I like this one a little bit more. I think I gave Magnolia Parks like a 3.5, and this one for me is a 4 star just because, like I said, I like the characters a little bit more, and I really relate to Daisy because she's a little bit of a grumpy character, so I like that a lot about her. Another thing that I really like is, like I said, you get Julian's point of view, which is Daisy's brother, and I thought it was going to be one of those really gross brother-sister relationships where the brother meddles a little bit too much into his sister's love life and makes it feel a little incest, but that is absolutely not what happens in this whatsoever. I think their relationship as brother and sister is healthy, so that is a very big plus for me. And Jessa Hastings' writing style is actually really beautiful too, so I understand why people love this series, and I did really enjoy this one, but the first one just not it for me. Then I picked up The Stolen Hours by Alan Eskins, and this is actually like, I want to say the 3rd or 4th book in a series. However, this one actually doesn't really involve the main character in the rest of the series. So his name is Joe Talbot, but in this one he's just a side character, and we're actually following his girlfriend who's practicing to become an attorney. She works under an attorney, and she gets involved in this brand new case involving a serial killer. And in this story, I like it because we're getting the serial killer's point of view as well. So it's kind of interesting, but a little bit like morbid at the same time that you're getting his point of view. You get to see his thoughts as he's picking out his victims, what he does to get ready for, well, murdering them and everything. So I thought that was interesting, and this was a lot better than I thought. It's definitely more on the thrilling side, but in a true crime sense. I don't think there's much mystery to it because we know who the killer is. You're just following along as they're figuring out who the killer is and everything. So yeah, I will say a little bit through the middle it got a little bit boring, so because of that I did give it 4 stars, but it's still a really good thriller, so I would recommend it, and I don't think you have to read the other books in the series to read this one. Next, I actually picked up Zodiac Academy. This is the second book, Ruthless Fae. This is by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. The first book in the series is about 2 twin sisters. They grew up as mortals within the foster care system system, and then when they turn 18, they actually get a visit from a man who is like, turns out that your fae, your real parents, were the fae king and queen of this kingdom, and now that they are dead, it is your turn to take the throne. However, first you have to go to Zodiac Academy, learn all about magic, prove yourself worthy, and at the same time, there are four other characters who want this throne, so they are going to bully the two sisters very hardcore so that they don't take the throne from them. And I really love this series so far. I read the first one so fast, I gave it 5 stars because it was just such a good time. This one I didn't necessarily love as much as the first one, but I don't know if it's just because of the excitement of getting into something brand new and learning this world was just so chaotic and fun in the first one, so that this one kind of brought it down, but just a little bit. I gave this one 4 stars because I still really loved it. If a bully romance isn't your thing, you're not gonna like it. It's just one of those things where it's absolutely chaotic, it's ridiculous. Some things just don't make sense, but I just have such a fun time reading it, and it also almost feels cheesy in like a nostalgic way. Like when you go back and watch Twilight and you're like, oh my god, this is actually terrible. Why did we love it so much? That's what this gives me. It gives me those same feelings, but like I said, I love it. So I will continue the series and I highly recommend it. And then I read Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This book is about two twin sisters. I forget their names, Amelia and Victoria. They are both witches, and it's not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book, but one of them ends up murdered. So now we're following the sister as she's trying to figure out who murdered her sister. There are demons involved, and one of the other main characters is named Wrath, and he is a prince of hell. You're not supposed to trust him, you're not supposed to make deals with him, but she finds herself doing both. And this is not bad. I didn't love it. There were parts that were interesting, and also there is a romance in here, and I just did not feel their connection. I also didn't love our main male lead because Wrath is this demon and he's supposed to be like really bad, untrustworthy, but he just seemed like he wasn't. Because, in my opinion, he shouldn't have been as helpful and like kind as he was, and he just didn't seem like Wrath. Like, I think of Wrath as a very, very scary character, and he just wasn't giving that. So it was a little bit of a letdown, but it still wasn't bad. I gave it 3 stars, and I don't know, I think I would continue the series though. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Next up, I read Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. This is the third book in the Boys of Tommen or Tommen series. The first two books in the series follow Johnny and Shannon. Shannon has a very bad home life and she moves schools to Tommen or whatever, and she meets Johnny and they form a bond and fall in love. And obviously these books are big, so a lot more than that happens, but they're not super plot heavy and not a lot is going on in the books, yet Chloe Walsh just makes you fall absolutely in love with these characters. I feel like they're real people, and like I just want to protect them, like, and I will die on that hill that these are top tier romances, probably my favorite of all time. But the third book is following Shannon's brother and his love interest, which I know I'm not going to pronounce it right, but I think it's Ophi. Don't quote me on that though. But going into this book, I was a little hesitant because I didn't want it to be repetitive because it is around the same timeline as Johnny and Shannon's book, but it wasn't very repetitive at all because you're actually getting their story before the events of Johnny and Shannon's book and during. So this one wasn't repetitive at all, but this story was just as beautiful. I gave this one 5 stars because it's just as good as the rest of the series, and I'm excited to learn more about Joey and Ophi's story because they have both been through it together. And then after that, I actually had my very first DNF of 2024, and unfortunately it was a book I was really excited to read, and that is The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. This book, I honestly couldn't even tell you what it was about. I read 40% of it and then I was like, so confused, so lost, not following what was happening. So I decided to DNF it because I feel like 40% of the way through I should know what's going on. I just feel like there were a lot of characters throughout the book. I couldn't keep up. The point of views kept getting so confusing, and I also just for some reason got lost in the plot. Like, I'm pretty sure they were also summoning like a demon or something, and I really don't know like for what. So I just couldn't continue, especially considering how thick this book is. That's all I'm gonna say about that one. But then after that was pretty much a fail, I decided to pick up the Atlas 6 and give it a go. This is by Olivia Blake. This is about a group of 6 people who all have powers. They're all different, and they get selected to go to this, it's like Alexandria, the library. Yeah, the Alexandrian Society. And while they're there, they're basically competing because there are only 5 spots available to be part of this society, but there's 6 of them. And in this book, you're just getting a lot of drama, honestly, between these 6 characters. You're learning about their powers, seeing them use it in very toxic ways, while at the same time they're trying to defend the library. There is a good chunk of action in there, but the only thing that was a little bit confusing and that threw me off a little bit was when they started talking more about like magic and stuff. Let me be more specific. So there's like the whole time and slowing it down, I think, and like that was just confusing to me. I don't understand, okay? I did watch Doctor Strange, and the whole time I was just confused. I was just there for the vibes, because if someone's talking to me about traveling through space and time, not it, okay? I don't understand. So that part got a little bit confusing. But the characters are like all kind of morally gray. I think that it was interesting on that aspect of it. So I gave it a 3.5 because I did enjoy a good chunk of it. It's just like I said, it got slow and a little boring for me, but it still wasn't bad. And then I finally started Crescent City. This is the first book, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And this series, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to get into it. I did read ACOTAR and Throne of Glass last year, and it just completely sold me on Sarah J. Maas. I understand why people love her series. So in this book, we are following Bryce. Bryce is trying to help solve a murder that she somehow finds herself involved with, and while she's doing that, she pairs up with Hunt, who works for, like, think of the Fae FBI in this town, and it just follows them throughout this. And this was so interesting. This is a modern fantasy, so in this world you also have cars and cell phones and stuff like that, and it just has such a different vibe compared to ACOTAR and Throne of Glass. Like in those, they're more of kings and high lords and stuff like that, and in here it's just Bryce, who is a normal girl, and Hunt, who is working for the FBI. So it has like those more mystery type vibe. Does this make any sense? I don't know, but I did love this. I'm gonna give it 4 stars though, because there were parts where it felt slow and I just wasn't absolutely enthralled into this world like I have been, especially in ACOTAR, but I still really like the series and I am definitely going to continue it, and I definitely recommend it. Understand the hype. I'm a full Sarah J. Maas fan now, so I'm glad that I read it. And then the very last book I actually finished today, and that is the 3rd book in the Magnolia Park series. This is Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. This is once again following Magnolia and BJ, and as I've said earlier in the video, I don't love these 2 characters, but in this book, I just went through all the emotions. Like, I hated them, and then I loved them, and then I hated them again, but this one I like a lot better than the first Magnolia and BJ story, because you just understand their characters more. I kind of felt like I got to know them a little bit better, and even if I don't agree with their choices, I still liked them better in this book than in their first book. So I am going to give this one 4 stars as well. I think it's really good. Her writing style is just beautiful once again, and I think I'm going to continue the series now because I'm kind of understanding the hype behind it. But that is it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you read this month, and if you read any of these, your thoughts and opinions. But I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!